Hey, this is Brian again, and I'd like to ask you to do a favor. We can't do this work without people like you, so if you can, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about Bring Back the Porch.
So I think you were asking me a little bit earlier, does this mean more power for the city? Yes, and also at a perfect time. In the summer, Medicine Hat's a very unique operation because Kelowna and Penticton, there's very few municipalities in the entire country of Canada that use more electricity in the summer than they do in the winter. Medicine Hat would be one of them. Obviously, everybody has an air conditioner. And so we can use that power in the summer, and that's when they have it available. So it's a perfect win-win situation for the city and for Big Marble.
This episode of Bring Back the Porch brought to you by Bernie Leahy, River Street Realty. Let's get you home. Recently, there was a ceremony southwest of Medicine Hat at Big Marble Farms where city officials were joined by the people from Big Marble to mark a connection, a special connection between their cogeneration and the city's electrical grid. With us to talk about this today is Councillor Ted Clugston, who is the chair of the Energy Committee and someone who was there when all of this began. Yeah. So tell us the story.
About 4.5 years ago, I'm going to say. So a greenhouse is an interesting operation. Obviously, we have lots of them around here. And they need both light and heat. And Big Marble built 12 megawatts of generation. And, it's awesome what they've done out there. If you've ever had a chance to go take a tour, which you probably have. If you haven't, you should. What an operation. And what they do is they can make their own power. Now, Big Marble is actually outside the city limits, very, very close. And there's been a delay in the substation down in the south, and you're probably aware of that. Yep. The residents pushed back on it, and we are now going ahead with that substation, but it wasn't in time for Big Marble. So they built this generation. It's about 12 megawatts. And obviously during the winter, they have the lights on quite a bit. I'm not an expert in growing cucumbers and things, but they need so many hours of light. And so they do that. And plus the way these generators put off heat, as you're well aware, and rather than going into the atmosphere, they use it to heat the greenhouse. So it's perfect in the winter. But in the summer, they don't need them as much because the sun is up. And so they have this excess power that they could sell. And the problem with these generators, and there's nothing wrong with them, but it's hard to, you turn them on, they turn them on. It's like jet engines on and off, and it's hard on them. It's better if you turn them on and leave them running, and versus up and down and up and down and up and down. I'm sure they could explain it better than I can. And so in the summer, they maybe only need the generators a couple hours a day, and they don't need the heat, obviously, during the sun when the sun's hot. So there's this excess power. But the problem is because we are the only retailer, the City of Medicine Hat, and we have an exemption, and you can't shop your power price around. You can't say you're stuck with the City of Medicine Hat whether you like it or not. But part of that is that we have a lot of rules so that we don't compete. We don't have an unfair advantage against ATCO, MX, and those kinds of things. So we couldn't take their power because they weren't inside the City of Medicine Hat. Now, there were some rule changes made, I think it was around March of 25 or ish, by the AESO, the Alberta Electric System Operator, that said, okay, you can, so they use their excess, their net. So sometimes they might be running the generators, but they don't need all the power, and then there's this excess. So we are now allowed to purchase that excess and sell it. So I think you were asking me a little bit earlier, does this mean more power for the city? Yes, and also at a perfect time. In the summer, Medicine Hat's a very unique operation because Kelowna and Penticton, there's very few municipalities in the entire country of Canada that use more electricity in the summer than they do in the winter. Medicine Hat would be one of them. Obviously, everybody has an air conditioner. And so we can use that power in the summer, and that's when they have it available. So it's a perfect win-win situation for the city and for Big Marble.
Now, the regulations that were changed at the level of the province allowed this partnership, but it was in the works, I think, going back even to 2016 when they first started to kind of explore this, and they kind of were stuck with, well, we can't do it because of the regulations. So the provincial regulations changed. Then did the city have to do something on their end too, in terms of bylaws?
Yes, so we had to change the bylaw. Now, I think this was obviously done before my turn because I wasn't around. And so that we could take their net power. But I don't know if it was as long ago as 2016, but I mean, I remember becoming involved in my last term as mayor, so that was 2020, 21-ish.
Okay.
So
All right.
that answered your question.
Yeah. Now, the other question that people are asking is, what is the city paying to buy the power? I'm not sure if you can tell, but that's probably confidential.
That's the problem, right? So, everybody wants to know because it's a publicly owned power plant. It's my power plant. I'm a shareholder. You're a shareholder. I want to know the deals. And that's why people are reluctant to do business with the city. Because if you're a private enterprise, you don't want your business on the front page of the news or on a podcast or anywhere, on Facebook, right? So the beauty of Medicine Hat is that we are a one-stop shop. Like sometimes it helps us attract new businesses here because you can get the power. You know what your property tax is. You can get the land from one place, the permitting, but you're also dealing with a public entity. And so Hut 8's a perfect example. Everybody wants to know what is Hut 8, And I like to say it's like the most I can say about this deal is it's called a power purchase agreement or a PPA or an energy service agreement, ESA. Is that, if I had a used car and Brian, I'm going to sell you my car and you're a willing buyer, hopefully, you're not under duress, and I'm a willing seller, also not under duress. You and I are going to go back and forth on the price. And at the end of the deal, you're going to buy my car. And we're both going to be kind of happy. You're going to be mad because you think you paid too much. And I'm going to be mad because I think you stole it from me, right? Mm-hmm. But that's the only way a deal works, right? So everybody is kind of happy and kind of unhappy. And that's about what I can say about this. I read on Facebook, is this going to make my taxes go up? Same thing with Hut 8, right? Yep. And the thing is, like, the energy division is over here, has its own bank account, its own investment arm, has nothing to do with the taxes. The only thing is that when the energy department makes money, it pays a dividend over to the tax side. But not since the beginning of the utility 125 years ago has money ever come from the taxes over to the utility. The utilities, it's a one-way street. So this will benefit the taxpayers, obviously. If it's profitable to the city, profitable Big Marvel, there may increase the dividend, and it actually may lower your taxes, but it won't raise your taxes.
Okay. What would have happened if a deal like this hadn't been made and we were still lacking power in the southwest and the south part of the city?
So we're okay right now. So that new subdivision is coming online, and a lot of these subdivisions are redundancy. And if one, it's kind of a spoken wheel, but if one goes there, you can. So we are at our limit. We do need this new substation, and it is approved and it's moving forward. We had to do a $20 million budget amendment, and people are like, why are you doing budget amendments? Because it took so long, and now with all the data centers being built all over the world, prices those stations are going up, all the components, plus there's a lead time now on them. It used to be if a part went, you could get it in 6 weeks. We're talking 5 years sometimes for these things. So the city is in some ways scrambling to make sure we have backup parts for different transformers and all the other electrical equipment because it's such a long lead time now. But this is nice to have this availability. So we have PPAs as well, like with CanCarb, we have one. They're waste heat. They produce electricity, and we buy that, as well as the wind farms, those 3 turbines. Those aren't owned by the city. They're owned by a private company, and we buy 100% of their output when they're producing.
Is this new agreement with Big Marble Farms, is this categorized as green energy? Does it help there?
I don't think we would call it green because it's natural gas fired. Mm-hmm. But for them, if they're using that waste heat, that's energy they would have burnt in a furnace or however to heat the greenhouse that they aren't having to do. And it's a greenhouse, so I guess it is green.
Okay, here we go. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about too was during the campaign in the fall, a lot was made about the municipal corporation that might control the utilities. Has that been laid to bed now?
I think so. The MCC part was laid to bed by the previous council, but part of it was kind of tied into the rate review committee. And you may have seen some of you may have seen last council meeting where myself and Councillor Cox kind of, maybe we're curmudgeons. We're like, this is the way we've always done it.
You're veterans.
Yeah, veterans. Okay, that's a better word than curmudgeons. 125 years. City council's been elected. City council sets rates. Whether that's been good or not, councils have made mistakes. I've made mistakes in my time. But there's a tradition here in Medicine Hat that you elect as a publicly owned utility by the residents. Every 68,000 of us each owns a share in that utility. It's your utility, and you elect us to run it and to set the rates. It's the way it's always been done, and it has pretty much been set to bed. We got, I think, an 8-1 vote on that one, or 7-1 vote on that one. I think maybe somebody might have been missing. It's pretty much set to bed. But the thing is, and I was talking about this last Monday, is a municipal councillor in Medicine Hat has a unique responsibility that other councillors don't in other municipalities, and it's a challenge. And when you run for city council, you better be aware that not only are you dealing with policy and procedure on the municipal side, but you're also running a $400 million a year utility. And you have to have the courage to make some tough decisions. And they're never popular. When you raise rates, it's never popular. And I always like to make an example of, if you're in any other city and you don't phone the CEO of ATCO and say, I don't like my rate, do something about it. Because the CEO of ATCO will hang up the phone on you. You'll never,
If he even takes the call.
he or she will never answer your call. And if they do, they'll hang up the phone on you because they answer to their shareholders and they must remain profitable. And whether you like your rate or not, is inconsequential to them. But in Medicine Hat, you can phone the mayor and say, I'm not voting for you again, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. And the mayor or the city councilor goes, I live in this city as well. I have to pay these rates. And well, maybe we could shave a little bit off here or shave a little bit off here, to the detriment of the utility. Because if politicians are always just giving away the rates and making lower rates to the bottom, then you have an unprofitable utility that goes bankrupt, and that doesn't benefit anybody. So it's a really tough tightrope to walk.
So now these changes, council will be setting the rates?
Yes.
Every month?
No, no. So there's a rate setting formula right now. The previous council did the 7 to 11, but that may change with this new council. I don't know what they're going to do, but the rate review committee was going to be an outside group of experts from the utility industry that said, you know what, 7 cents per kilowatt is not sustainable. You need to raise the rate or the fixed charges as well. All those charges on your bill that you can't stand, right? You need to raise those or lower them, but they were going to be outside experts. I know there's been a lot of controversy. We have a lot of good people, employees, our staff, our administration that come from industry. We used to, when I was back in my day, we stole from MX, EPCOR, and ATCO. That's where we got our employees from. And so they were private sector people with a lot of experience. And so they do advise us.
Okay. So that is still, you haven't determined what's going to happen, I guess, on the 1st of April. Still going to follow the monthly setting until you get the other stuff sorted out?
We did set the fixed rates back in November. The new council raised them about 3% across the board, because those are the fixed charges for the lines, not the actual commodity.
No, yeah. And the commodities, as we know, the world today, they're going up.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, everything is based on the price of gas, especially when it comes to electricity.
Mm-hmm. The other bit of unfinished business, I guess, is you're still looking for a customer for the Samus Solar Park. Yeah.
Thank you for asking if there's a customer. That was there were 4 criteria in that motion: energy service agreement, PPA, a customer to buy it, a tax credit for building the solar, and some changes from ASO to make it a bit of a smaller solar farm. All 4 of those have to be met before construction will be started on that. Died down in the community, a bit. It was a rough sell 2 months ago now, I guess, already in February. I mean, we had a lot of the grandstand was full. People had signs stuck to their faces and refused to watch the presentation. And then the questions they all asked were all obviously in the presentation if they'd watched it and taken the signs off their faces. But yeah, we're in active negotiations with actually more than one potential purchaser, I think.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you have two willing buyers competing with each other,
Yeah, hopefully.
as the seller, you're in a pretty good position.
And just once again, that used car analogy, we
Mhm.
will sell it at a profit.
Amen.
Yes.
All right, Ted, anything else you want to add before we sign off?
That's good. You maybe a lot of people, if you're interested, a lot of people have been asking about this new council, and I have experience on, this will be my 5th council, and each one of them is a unique animal, and this one is no different. They are gelling very, very well. You maybe noticed real concerted effort by this council to work together, maybe, disagree respectfully, but work together. And they've made a commitment to do that. And you had most of them here. And it was one of the number one things you heard at the doors is, all I want is for this new council to get along and get something done. I used to make a joke, and maybe I made it here last time, is make city council boring again, which we have. No fighting, no front page of the tabloid. That would, went from the last 4 years, and they're a very diverse group. The mayor alluded to it during her State of the City speech. A very, very unique group that are trying exceptionally hard to work together.
Well, that is good news for everybody in the
Yes.
city of Medicine Hat.
It's what you actually want.
Ted, thanks for the visit.
Thank you very much.
Hey, this is Brian again, and I'd like to ask you to do a favor. We can't do this work without people like you, so if you can, please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about Bring Back the Porch.